he does it again for the final time, and it snaps in half. And all of a sudden, his face is like, hello and welcome back to the channel and Vlogmas. So today I am going to tell you the story about the time a bouncer of a bar, who was also the manager, which I found out later, we'll get to that, broke my license. And if you follow me on Twitter, or at least if you followed me since August, the end of August, you're likely already familiar with the story because I did tweet about it when it was happening. Also, if you follow me on Instagram, I posted it there as well. So, this is going to be a bit of a wild ride. Join me. So at the end of August, I flew up to Jersey to visit my boyfriend for his birthday. And this trip was already wild from the start. Things happened literally 20 minutes after I arrived, and then this happened. So at one point we were going to Princeton, and I was going to get a look of his school that he went to, and I was going to meet his best friend, who we will call Gabby. We're going to meet Gabby. I was going to meet Gabby, and then we were both going to meet her boyfriend because we both never met him. So we get over there, meet Gabby. It's great, and we go to one bar, and we have a couple of drinks and whatnot, and it's a good time. I was feeling it. And then she goes, okay, well, so my boyfriend is over at the Ivy Inn. Is that what it was called? It's the Ivy Inn. And we were going to go over there and have a few drinks there and meet her boyfriend. So we go. You know, we get to the front door, and it's the usual. Show your license, walk in. I think there's a cover to be paid, and I think Gabby was covering for all of us, which, you know, was very generous of her. And he gets Gabby's license, gives her the okay, tells her to go in. He gets my license. I have a North Carolina license, you know, so I'm a North Carolinian in New Jersey. And he looks at my license, and all of a sudden puts it into his pocket and just looks at me. And I am very confused, because, hello, if you didn't know, hi, I'm deaf, and well, while I can hear some things, when I'm in a bar that's crowded and has music and whatnot, there's too much stuff going on that I can't even begin to hear what a person in front of me is saying unless they're really, really loud. So I was just very confused, and my boyfriend steps in and is trying to talk to him and find out what's going on, and all I got, or rather what my boyfriend got, and then he told me, he says that you're not getting your license back unless you call the cops for it. And I was like, what the heck? So basically, the guy thought that my license was fake. You know, he was taking it and like squishing it. He thought it was fake, and then he took it away. Gabby was very confused, and then she was trying to figure out what was going on. And we were all like, hi, yes, I am of age. Like, I am actually 27 years old. And that is my license, you know, that's what a North Carolina license looks like, and, like, you know what, if you don't want us in here, if you don't want me in here, I can just take my license and leave. I'm not going to worry about it, because, hi, I need that license to get back home, right? Like, I had to fly, I had to get through TSA, and that was the whole thing. But he wasn't having it. He wouldn't give me my license back. He just kept saying, no, it's fake, and you're not going to get it back unless you call the cops and they tell me to give it back to you. So I can't call the cops. And never mind the fact that also what was happening was I couldn't understand him, and I'm trying to understand him. I'm like, dude, I can't understand you. And he just like keeps talking, and I'm just like, dude, I can't understand you. Like, what I need to know what the heck is going on. I need to know why you're not giving me my license back, and you're just standing there and not doing anything. So my boyfriend goes, do you want me to call the cops? And I said yes, because I'm getting really upset right now. And so he leaves, he's going outside to call the cops. And then Gabby is trying to talk with him. My boyfriend is calling the cops, and I'm telling him, dude, do you not have like a booklet that tells you what each state license looks like? I mean, I've had people in Toronto, when I went to go get alcohol there, people in Toronto were very confused by my license, but they took out a book and they went, okay, this looks right, here you go, and it was fine. But this guy refused to look up anything. And I also remember that my boyfriend was like, dude, she's a public figure. Like, we can show you all these articles that say, yes, she's 26 years old and 27 years old. I think the most recent article of me says I'm 26, right? So, but I'm also on, like, famousbirthdays.com and stuff like that. So, there's information out there that is verified that shows, hello, I am at least 21 years old. I'm a little bit older than 21, in fact. But he just wasn't having it. And so while we're waiting for my boyfriend to call the cops, and I'm not getting out of my space because, you have my government property, and I'm not leaving without it. He takes my license. Okay, do I have anything that I can... So pretend this is my license. Okay, I just took an index card. And he has my license. And you know what he keeps doing? This, bending it all the way. And you know what happens? When you bend things, they get a little bit disfigured. And I keep telling him, could you please stop bending my license like that? Like, I understand maybe 1 or 2 times to get a feel of it, but he's doing this for like a whole minute or so straight. And what happens? He does it again for the final time, and it snaps in half. And all of a sudden, his face is like, he is surprised. He is somehow genuinely surprised that after doing this over and over, that it goes from looking like a full license to this in pieces. And again, he's just like, and that's when I really started to lose it, because then my boyfriend comes back in and I tell him, he just broke official government property. And my boyfriend's like... And I go outside, and I call my dad. My dad is the only person that I trust myself to call, because I can scream what in his ear over and over and not feel bad about it if I can't understand him. And because I'm so used to hearing him all my life, I have an idea of his voice. I'm used to it. No, I don't understand everything, but it was then that I learned that Samsung speakers are better for my hearing than Apple, apparently. But anyways, so I call him, and I move away because you know how hearing people are. They think that deaf means absolutely can't hear anything at all and don't understand it. It's a spectrum, so I'm moving away because I don't want it to be used against me. And I call my dad, and I go, yeah, so I'm at this bar, and I'm crying. I'm at this bar. This guy, the bouncer, took my license, hid it in his pocket, refused to give it back unless we called the cops. And then he broke it, which means that it's no longer usable. So when I go through TSA, there's a high chance I'm not going to go through. And I am stuck in Jersey, unless I got an emergency license or something. But anyway, there was no time for that either. And so he was getting mad. He kept calling him an asshole. And, he was just like, you need to press charges. If you can, press charges or whatever. You stole your government property and he broke it and whatnot. Like, you're not supposed to break it. If you break personal property, I can press charges. Anyway, so that was the whole thing, and then he told me to keep him updated and whatnot. Like, I was so afraid that I was feeling like I was in the wrong for feeling upset that this guy took my license, wouldn't give it back, and then broke it. I mean, I understand if somebody thinks that it's fake, but here's the thing. If he thought it was fake, he should have called the cops, but we'll get to that. So finally, cops come. I think it took like half an hour, which I get. It's not a big old emergency. About 30 minutes later, we see the cop, and we're waving at him, let them know, hi, we are the people who called. And my boyfriend tells them what happened. And I tell them what happened, and they asked for my social security card, or my social security number, and I gave it to them, and they verified, okay, that is me, and that is a license. That is a North Carolina license. They went into the bar to go talk to the bouncer. They have a talk with him. One of the guys comes out, and one thing I was annoyed by was I was like, hi, I'm deaf, can you please type on the phone? And they were just like, no, we don't want to do that. That was a little bit annoying. But anyway, so the guy would be talking, and then my boyfriend would be writing it down for me, and the cop goes, you are in the right, and this guy was in the wrong if he thought that the license should have been, if the guy thought that the license was fake, he could have he was in the right to have the license and hold the license, but he also should have called the cops. You were not the one that should have called us. He should have called us, because that's the way the law here works. Maybe that is, I don't know if that's everywhere, but he said, New Jersey, if somebody thinks the license is fake, they call the cops. But he didn't. He wanted me to call the cops, or I would just be shit out of luck and I wouldn't be able to go, right? And then I out of curiosity, I asked him about pressing charge, and he says, well, you are in the right to press charges because he did destroy government property. And if you want, you can do that, but you have to do them here, and then if you have a court case, then you have to fly here and deal with all that, and, like, that's just financially not really what I want, especially because they control the dates, so maybe I wouldn't have saved up enough for that. And I was worried about TSA. I was like, well, what am I going to do? Because I have to fly out in 2 days. And he goes, well, here's my business card. I wrote down the police case ID, so if they have an issue, they can call me and whatnot. And that's all I can tell you. You know. And yeah, so he left. I felt a little bit better knowing that I was completely right in my feelings of being upset. And actually, before the cops came, the guy actually offered me $20. He asked me how much a license was, and I wasn't even really sure because I was looking on the DMV website, but there was like so many different licenses and so many different prices, and I was like, I don't know, this says anywhere from like $13 to $35, and he goes, well, here's 20, and okay. And then after we got back, I finally got my license back. I think the police actually took it from him and then gave it to me, but we went back. Not inside, but we were kind of like outside waiting for Gabby to come out because she was going to say hi to her boyfriend and bring him out so we could meet him. So anyway, we go back to the front near the door because Gabby was going to bring her boyfriend out to meet us, or like she was going to say bye to him. I don't know. The little details are a bit scattered right now. But yeah, so the bouncer comes back out and he's like, again, I'm really, really sorry. And after he gave me the first $20, he actually gave me another $20 to cover it, just in case. And then the bouncer offered a first round of drinks on him. And I was still intoxicated, and I was almost feeling it. Because if you give me a drink for free, I don't really like to turn it down because I hate paying for alcohol. But then, you know, I was asking my boyfriend, what do you think? And he's like, it's up to you. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm out. Let's just go back to the other one that we were at because, like, I don't want to deal with this business anymore. I'm completely turned off by this business. Let's just go somewhere else. I'm upset. Let's go. And so we did that. And I tried to go home 2 days later, and TSA would not let me through. They would not let me through. They saw that my license was broken. I had a piece of paper that told the whole story, and actually they ignored that piece of paper, which said death in big letters on a good section of the paper, and started talking. I was like, they're like, oh, but they're like, we can't let you through because your license is broken. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? There's no way for me to get home because I have to fly. There's no other way. But then they were like, okay, do you have like a debit card with your picture on it? And I was like, yes, I do. I gave them my debit card, and they're like, okay, you can go. Get that license fixed, but you can go. And then it took forever for me to replace my license because I hate going to the DMV. I finally got my license replaced. There was that, and I got the police report a few days later because I was asking again about charges because, one, I wanted to be completely sober when I read the instructions. And so he was telling me about that, and I asked for the police report, and it said that the bouncer thought my ID was fake because it was more flimsy. But the thing is, North Carolina licenses just naturally are not as strong as New York and New Jersey licenses, so they're much more breakable. And the police told him, this was in the police report, he said, be more careful with other people's property, especially government property, and don't keep doing this to other people's licenses because they will break. And that's not good. And he also told the bouncer, who is the manager, because when I got his name, I looked him up on Facebook, and it says manager of the Ivy Inn. So, yeah. And he said, again, the police said, don't break other people's property, and the next time, should you think a license is fake, don't tell the people you're taking a license from to call the cops. That is your job. That is our law. That is your job. And the kicker is this guy used to work for the legal system. I found that out too. So, like I said, it was a wild ride. All I wanted was to leave and have my license back, but no, we had to get the whole police involved, and it was a very traumatic experience that I would like to not live out ever again. But yeah, never going back to that bar. I have absolutely zero interest to go there. Just, I'm good. Anyway, so if you had anything similar happen to you, please let me know. Thank you for reliving this traumatic experience with me. But before you go, if you haven't, consider being a pledge on Patreon. It's a great way to support your favorite creators' content. From me, you get perks like music playlists, written pieces you won't see anywhere else, and pen pal letters if you pledge up high enough. And I will see you later. Bye!